Legislative Secretariat of the National Congress. First of all, I'd like to thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm very flattered to be able to address some words to this select group of women and to share our challenges in these ever-changing times that requires modern solutions from all parliamentarians and in the world. I'd like to congratulate the Bússola Tech for this initiative to appreciate women's work. So I'm very glad to participate in such an important moment and to be able to value each one of our noble women in this meeting. Thank you. Here in Brazil, the federal legislative branch is bicameral. It is composed of Federal Senate and the Chamber of Deputies, which is equivalent to the House of Representatives here in Brazil. When these two houses are assembled for one joint decision, a new house emerges, the National Congress, which has very well-defined constitutional attributions, separate from those two aforementioned houses. But before I speak specifically about the attributions, I know that the time is short, but I think that it is important of the National Congress and the challenges we have battled. It is interesting to establish thorough considerations of how the solutions implemented in the Senate and the Chamber have evolved since the beginning of the pandemic. On March 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, the Brazilian Senate developed the SDR, acronym in Portuguese for Remote Deliberation System. This system has two purposes of make the plenary sessions flow as smoothly as possible. It is worth mentioning that the video conference tool acquired by the Brazilian Senate allows the simultaneous participation of up to 300 users. As you know, each house sought different solutions to ensure its functioning during the pandemic. And within the Brazilian National Congress itself, the Chamber of Deputies and the Senate developed different solutions. For instance, while the Senate started with 100% remote sessions, the other house, the Chamber of Deputies, preferred to adopt a semi-remote solution with some members of parliaments, especially party leaders, physically present in the hall. At the beginning, only projects related to the pandemic and solutions to the many problems arising from it were deliberated. Also, during 2020, the Senate held some semi-remote sessions, and in 2021, adopted the holding of semi-remote sessions permanently. After the first steps were taken in both of the Chamber and the Senate and the respective systems of remote deliberation and internal process were consolidated separately. In the two houses, a new challenge arose: how to carry out the joint sessions of the National Congress. As I said, the Chamber of Deputies and Senate developed and adopted separate systems. In this context, even the technological limitation was an obstacle to the holding of joint sessions of the National Congress. In joint sessions, the 81 senators and 513 deputies meet in the same session to deliberate on specific projects as determined by the federal constitution. For example, here in Brazil, we have an instrument called presidential veto. This instrument is used by the President of the Republic to refuse sanctioning a bill in whole or in part under the argument that unconstitutionality or opposition to the public interest. A veto may be maintained or rejected by the National Congress under the terms of the joint rules of procedure. Some projects that dealt with topics related to the pandemic and were being passed by the Chamber and the Federal Senate were also vetoed by the President of the Republic. So the first need arose for the National Congress to meet and deliberate on those vetoes. Besides that, another competence of the National Congress, as defined by the Federal Constitution, is to deliberate on the budget bill that defines Brazil's budget. So once again, the need for action by the National Congress was evident. But as we always say here in Senate, since the beginning of the pandemic, in times of crisis, Parliament cannot stop. So we had to find a solution to the Congress sessions. So still in April 2020, the Joint Act number 2 of the boards of the Federal Senate and the Chamber of Deputies was published, regulating the sessions of the National Congress during the pandemic. The possible solution for holding the sessions was to treat the current moment exceptionally, to allow the Congress sessions to be held separately in each house, due to the incompatibility of the House's remote deliberation systems. First, there was a part of the session held with the deputies and the participation of a few senators. As an example, the reporters of the bills to deliver their opinion. Once the deputies have voted, we proceeded to the congressional session to be held in the Senate. In the same way, the representation of a few deputies, usually only the members of the Congressional Steering Board. The debate was also carried out separately, first only among the deputies, and then only by the senators. The parts of the congressional session taking place separately was the solution that the system used in the Chamber and the Senate allowed, but it clearly restricted joint debate and created obstacles to important details of the deliberation, such as the consideration of separate voting parts, for example. The challenge did not only concern the discussions, but also the voting of the bills. During all these sessions, vetoes, for example, were voted through agreements made between party leaders. The Brazilian Constitution provides that the veto must always respect an entire provision, such as a subparagraph, paragraph, article, etc. Consequently, the deliberation of vetoes in the National Congress is done provision by provision as well. Thus, it is not uncommon that in a joint session there are hundreds or even thousands of provisions to analyze. As a way to facilitate this whole process, during the sessions held before the pandemic, the voting for these provisions took place through voting ballots. On these ballots, parliamentarians record their individual vote for each veto provision. After being filled in by the parliamentarian, the ballot was printed and delivered by the MP physically in plenary. As this was not possible in remote sessions, ballots were not being used and voting was taking place by agreements. As you can see, the provisional solution was essential to enable voting on very important matters, including the laws that regulate the Brazilian budget. But as I said, the solution had to be provisional. In this sense, thanks to the hard work of the staff of the General Secretariat of the Board, of the Legislative Secretary of the Congress, together with the IT team, earlier this year, we were able to hold the first joint remote deliberate session of the National Congress, Senate, and Chamber of Deputies, with the simultaneous participation of the 81 senators and 513 deputies. To hand the floor to all members in an organized manner, especially considering that this is a meeting of 594 parliamentarians, we divided the participants into two communication rooms, one for party leaders and another for other parliamentarians. Since leaders can speak during any phase of the session, the microphones were open for them. The microphones of the other parliamentarians, on the other hand, are closed and are only opened when ordered by the chairman. With regard to voting, the big advance includes the development of a system called e-cédula that allows, in addition to the electronic filling of voters, the digital and secure delivery of ballots. The ballots are used to vote on vetoes, which are responsibility of the National Congress, as I said. In 2015, the ballots started to be filled out electronically. However, they were physically delivered in plenary, and the calculation took a while. Now, since the February 18th session of this year, once filled, the ballots can be delivered electronically through any kind of device, such as a desktop, computer, a notebook, or a mobile phone for the parliamentarian at the hall or at the house, wherever he was. The system generates a PDF file of the filled ballot, and it is sent and authenticated through the password of each parliamentarian. This completely changed the logic of handing over the ballots, allowing parliamentarians to hand in the ballots from now on without the need for their physical presence in the plenary, that is, remotely. The system allows the parliamentarian to verify the ballot has been delivered, but the parliamentarian may change a vote, substitute his ballot anytime while the voting session is in course. The chairman could click on the panel and monitor the progress of ballot delivery, which means checking how many and which parliamentarians have already sent their ballots. Then the chairman clicks on a single button to check the result instantaneously. The implementation of a new system not only changed the process, but the culture of the legislative house. Many parliamentarians are not so young and some face a little difficulty with technology, although they are always advised. Although there are some steps must be carried out personally by parliamentarians to ensure the accuracy and security of the process. The pandemic didn't leave much choice. They needed to update themselves and keep up with technological developments so that the legislative process wouldn't stop. However, our legislative process and technology teams have worked hard to make this whole process comfortable for members of parliament. In the specific case of the e-cédula, a step-by-step guide was prepared to explain how to carry out the electronic delivery of ballots. So the joint session held with all the senators and deputies with the advances related to debates and votes was another big step in the evolution of the process since the beginning of the pandemic, and we were very satisfied with the result because with this advance, democracy is the big win. The pandemic greatly accelerated technological innovation. It also made a rethink process and made it possible for parliamentarians to vote from wherever they are. I'm convinced that the face-to-face debate is richer, but it's no longer possible to envision a reality in which a parliamentarian has his right to vote curtailed because he cannot, for some reason, be in person in the session if technology allows him to vote from wherever he is. It's very important that we who are responsible for taking care of the legislative process and helping parliamentarians by showing the best possible paths are attentive so that the due process of law is observed, but always connected to what technology offers and what democracy requires. Just to finish, I would like to show you some images. May I share my screen?
Yeah, sure. You can press the button share screen, the green button.
Okay. Wait a minute, please. I'm just pitching. Are you seeing the screen?
Yes, you can see your screen.
Okay. So the first image, still in the beginning, when the sessions were 100% remote in the virtual plenary, where the Senate sessions and the Senate's part of the congressional sessions were held in this room. The next image. Here, with the evolution to semi-remote sessions, the Senate plenary, with some parliamentarians physically present and others remotely, right here, I think that you can see the panel. The third one. In the plenary of the Chamber of Deputies, the polling stations where the ballots printed by the parliamentarians were physically delivered in the plenary. Here is the president of the session, the chairman, and a lot of parliamentarians try to deliver their ballots. And the next one, I will show you. This is an image of the veto provisions voting ballot. As you can see here, we have a lot of provisions to vote. What's not a common? The next one is the step-by-step that we prepared by our team to show the parliamentarians how to deliver their ballots with their cell phones or in a desktop. When the chairman says that the voting are opened, it allows that they can deliver the ballot. Right. And finally, just out of curiosity, this is an image of the National Congress building. On this side is the Chamber of Deputies. Can you see my mouse? And the other in the Federal Senate. And the two of them working together, we can call the National Congress. Usually, the Congress sessions take place in the Chamber's plenary, this one, which is the larger one. So that's all. I'm at your disposal for any clarification or question.